Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. Robinson Crusoe was born in 1632 in the city of York, England. His family was not of noble birth but lived comfortably. His father, a German immigrant, had settled in England, where he became a successful merchant. His mother was an Englishwoman from a respectable background. Together, they built a stable and peaceful life, raising their children with values of hard work, caution, and practicality. From a young age, Robinson displayed a restless and adventurous spirit. Unlike his brothers, who were content to follow their father's footsteps in trade and business, Robinson longed for something more. He would often wander down to the docks, watching ships sail in and out of the harbor, listening intently to sailors' stories of distant lands and thrilling adventures on the high seas. His father noticed this growing fascination and tried to reason with him. One evening, when Robinson was about 19 years old, his father sat him down for a serious talk. "Son, the sea is no place for a man who has a secure future at home. Many who go to sea never return. Stay here in England, build a business, and lead a prosperous life." His mother also pleaded with him, reminding him of the dangers of the unknown. But Robinson's heart was set. He could not imagine a life confined to a desk or a shop. He wanted adventure, danger, and the thrill of the unknown. The first voyage. Defying his father's wishes, Robinson ran away from home and made his way to Hull, a major seaport, where he found a ship bound for London. It was his first time on a vessel, and while he was thrilled, he soon realized that a sailor's life was not as glamorous as he had imagined. The journey was rough. Within days, a storm hit, tossing the ship violently. Water rushed over the deck, and terrified sailors clung to the masts as waves crashed down upon them. Robinson, filled with regret, prayed for safety. "If I survive this, I will go home and never set foot on a ship again." But when the storm finally passed, and the sea returned to calm, his fear faded. Instead of going home, he pressed on, eager for the next adventure. In London, Robinson met merchants and sailors who spoke of profitable voyages to distant lands. One particular captain, seeing Robinson's enthusiasm, offered him a place on a trading voyage to the coast of Africa. The journey proved to be a success. Robinson learned the ways of trade, exchanging goods such as textiles and tools for gold and slaves. The trip was dangerous, but also rewarding. He returned to England with a small fortune, encouraging him to set out again for more wealth and adventure. However, fate had other plans. On his second voyage to Africa, his ship was attacked by Moorish pirates. The crew fought desperately, but they were outnumbered. Robinson was captured and taken to North Africa, where he was sold as a slave. For nearly 2 years, Robinson lived in bondage in Morocco. His master was a wealthy Moor who forced him to work as a fisherman. Though life was hard, Robinson never gave up hope. He watched carefully, waiting for the right moment to escape. One day, his master sent him and a young slave named Xury out to sea to fish. Seeing their chance, Robinson overpowered the guards and seized control of the boat. With Xury's help, he navigated away from the coast, heading into the vast, open sea. For days, they drifted, surviving on fish and rainwater. Just when hope seemed lost, they spotted a Portuguese ship. Waving desperately, they caught the attention of the captain, who rescued them. The Portuguese captain took Robinson to Brazil, where he started a new chapter of his life. With the little money he had, he purchased land and became a plantation owner. Over time, his business grew, and he became quite wealthy. Yet, despite his success, Robinson felt unfulfilled. He missed adventure. When he heard of a new expedition to Africa to acquire slaves for Brazilian plantations, he saw an opportunity to expand his wealth. Ignoring the warnings of his friends, he once again set sail into the unknown. This voyage, however, would be his last, at least, for many years. After years of adventure and success in Brazil, Robinson Crusoe felt the call of the sea once again. Despite the warnings of his friends and the lessons of his past, he could not resist the lure of another voyage. This time, he joined an expedition bound for the coast of Africa, aiming to expand his plantation business by acquiring slaves. The journey began smoothly. The ship was well stocked, the crew was experienced, and the winds were in their favor. Crusoe stood on deck, watching the endless horizon, feeling as though he had made the right decision. But fate had something else in store for him. Several weeks into their voyage, the skies darkened. The calm blue waters turned restless, and an eerie silence fell over the ship. Seasoned sailors exchanged nervous glances. A storm was coming. Then, it struck. Towering waves crashed against the ship as the wind howled like an angry beast. The wooden vessel creaked and groaned, struggling against the fury of the ocean. Rain poured in sheets, making it nearly impossible to see. Crusoe clung to the mast, his heart pounding. The captain shouted orders, but the storm drowned out his voice. The sailors worked frantically to keep the ship afloat, but the sea was merciless. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the horror around them. Crusoe saw a monstrous wave rise before them, taller than anything he had ever seen. And then it struck. The ship shattered like glass against the force of the wave. Robinson was thrown into the churning waters. The freezing sea swallowed him, pulling him under as debris from the ship crashed around him. Gasping for air, he kicked furiously, fighting against the pull of the abyss. Desperation took over. He clung to a wooden plank, coughing out seawater as he struggled to stay afloat. The screams of his crewmates echoed in the darkness, but one by one, their voices disappeared. For what felt like hours, Crusoe drifted aimlessly, exhausted and battered by the relentless waves. Just when he thought he could not go on, he spotted something, a dark shape in the distance. Land! With the last of his strength, he paddled toward it. The waves carried him forward, crashing him against the shore. He crawled onto the sand, his body aching, his lungs burning. And then darkness. When he awoke, the sun was blinding. His body was covered in cuts and bruises, his clothes torn. He struggled to sit up, taking in his surroundings. He was alone. The beach stretched endlessly, curving into dense, green jungle. The wreckage of his ship was nowhere to be seen. There was no sign of his crew, no voices, no footprints, nothing. He was the sole survivor. Fear gripped him. How would he survive? What would he eat? Where would he find water? Would he ever see another human being again? But there was no time to despair. He had only one choice: survive. Despite his exhaustion, Crusoe forced himself to his feet. The first thing he needed was food and fresh water. He ventured along the shoreline, scanning the horizon for anything useful. Then, he saw it. The remains of his ship had washed up on a reef, just a short distance from shore. His heart leaped. If he could reach it, he might find supplies, tools, weapons, maybe even food. The waves were calmer now, so he fashioned a crude raft from fallen branches and paddled toward the wreck. Climbing aboard, he found the storage area still intact. He worked quickly, gathering everything he could: biscuits, dried meat, and a few bottles of rum, gunpowder and muskets, a few tools, an axe, a knife, a hammer, rope, nails, and spare wood, a Bible. Loading his raft, he returned to shore, dragging his supplies onto the beach. For the first time, hope flickered inside him. As night fell, Robinson built a makeshift shelter with the wood and sails from the ship. He had food, water, and protection from the elements, but the silence was unbearable. There were no human voices, no city sounds, no comfort of society. The realization sank in. He was stranded on an uninhabited island, without knowing if rescue would ever come. But he was alive. And as long as he was alive, he would fight to survive. When Robinson Crusoe awoke the next morning, he felt a heavy loneliness pressing on his heart. The events of the previous day came back to him: the storm, the shipwreck, the struggle to survive. He was alone on an island, far from civilization, with no clear way of escaping. But Crusoe had always been a man of action. He refused to sit in despair. He had survived the sea, now he had to survive the land. The first thing Crusoe needed was a safe place to live. The small tent he had built from the ship's sails was not enough. He needed something sturdy, a home that could protect him from wild animals, the elements, and any unknown dangers lurking on the island. He searched for a good location and found a rocky hillside near a small valley. The hill provided natural protection, and the valley had fertile land for planting food. Using the tools he had salvaged, he got to work. He dug into the hillside, creating a small cave-like shelter. He built a wooden fence around the entrance using trees he chopped down with his axe. He made a ladder instead of a door so he could climb in and pull it up at night, keeping him safe. The work took weeks, but when it was done, he finally felt secure. With shelter taken care of, Crusoe's next biggest concern was food. The biscuits and dried meat from the ship wouldn't last forever. He began exploring the island, searching for anything edible. He found wild fruits, bananas, grapes, and melons. Turtles and eggs, a good source of protein. Freshwater streams, essential for survival. One day, while exploring deeper into the jungle, he made an exciting discovery: wild goats. This meant he could hunt for meat and possibly tame them for milk in the future. Using his musket, he hunted a goat, roasted the meat over a fire, and stored the leftovers for later. Over time, Crusoe realized he couldn't just rely on hunting and gathering, he needed a steady food supply. One day, while searching through his supplies, he found some bags of grain from the ship. Instead of eating them, he decided to plant them in a small field near his shelter. At first, nothing happened. But after months of waiting, the plants began to grow. He had barley and rice, his first real farm. This was a turning point. Now, he wasn't just surviving, he was building a life. As more time passed, Crusoe became more skilled at hunting. But he realized that hunting goats was wasteful. If he tamed them, he could have milk and meat whenever he needed. Using rope, he built a small pen and slowly captured young goats. Over time, they became domesticated, providing milk, cheese, and even offspring. This was another step toward self-sufficiency. Despite all his success, there was one thing Crusoe could not escape: the crushing loneliness. He had not spoken to another human in years. He spent nights talking to himself, imagining conversations, and longing for a friend. To cope, he carved a calendar into a wooden post to track time. Read the Bible, finding comfort in faith. Built a small fort for extra protection, even though no threats had appeared yet. But that would soon change. One day, while exploring the beach, Crusoe made a discovery that sent shivers down his spine: a footprint. It was not his own. Robinson Crusoe stood frozen, his heart pounding in his chest. A footprint, clear as day, pressed into the wet sand. For years, he had lived in complete isolation, believing himself to be the only human on the island. But this footprint was not his own. Someone else had been here. His mind raced. Was it a native? A lost traveler? A threat? Crusoe's survival instincts took over. He quickly erased the footprint, gathered his weapons, and hurried back to his shelter. That night, he barely slept. Every sound outside seemed like an approaching danger. The next day, Crusoe climbed to the highest hill and scanned the island carefully. He waited for hours, searching for any sign of life. Then, in the distance near the shore, he saw movement. A group of natives, a dozen or more, had landed on the beach. Crusoe watched in horror as they dragged captives onto the sand. From his hiding spot, he realized what was happening: they were cannibals, preparing for a ritual sacrifice. His blood ran cold. Had they been here before? Had they seen him? Would they return? He watched, helpless, as they killed one prisoner and began their gruesome feast. But one of the captives suddenly broke free and ran toward the jungle, toward Crusoe's hiding place. The natives chased after him. Without thinking, Crusoe grabbed his musket and rushed down the hill. As the escapee neared, Crusoe took aim and fired. Boom! One native fell to the ground, lifeless. The others stopped, startled by the loud gunshot. Crusoe fired again, hitting another. The rest, terrified by the weapon's power, turned and ran back to their canoes, fleeing the island in panic. The escaped prisoner collapsed on the ground, exhausted. Crusoe approached cautiously. The man looked up with fear and gratitude. He was young, strong, and of native descent. His expression was one of pure relief. Crusoe pointed to himself and said, "Robinson." The man hesitated, then pointed to himself and spoke a word in his own language. Crusoe didn't understand it, so he decided to call him Friday, because it was on a Friday that he saved him. Friday knelt before Crusoe, showing his loyalty and gratitude. But Crusoe lifted him up, signaling that they were equals, not master and servant. Over time, Crusoe taught Friday English, starting with simple words. Friday, in turn, taught Crusoe about his people, the island, and survival skills Crusoe never knew. They became companions, working together to fortify their shelter in case the natives returned, hunt and fish more efficiently, train with weapons, as Crusoe feared the cannibals might come back. For the first time in years, Crusoe had someone to talk to, laugh with, and share his burdens. His loneliness was over. One night, Friday asked a question that changed everything. Why not leave? Crusoe had long given up hope of escape, but Friday explained that his tribe lived on a nearby island and had canoes strong enough to reach the mainland. A new plan was born. They worked for months, building their own large canoe. But before they could leave, they saw something that made their blood run cold. On the beach, more canoes appeared. The cannibals had returned. And this time, there were more of them. The engine of the boat hummed steadily as the group sped through the darkened waters, the island's shadow slowly fading into the distance. But as they pushed farther out to sea, the weight of the escape settled heavily on their shoulders. They had made it this far, but the dangers weren't over yet. Ethan gripped the wheel tightly, eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of pursuit. The boat was old and creaky, and its engine sputtered as if reluctant to carry them to safety. Lily, sitting at the bow, was still shaking, her mind replaying every moment of their desperate flight from Mason and his traps. "We can't let our guard down," Ethan said, his voice tense. "We need to get far enough away before morning. The last thing we want is to be spotted by anyone on the mainland." But as they pushed through the dark waters, a piercing scream split the air. It came from the island. "He's not giving up," Lily whispered, her face pale. Ethan's heart raced. He didn't have to ask who she meant. It was Mason, relentless in his pursuit. They could hear the faint echoes of voices, the sound of something crashing through the trees. Their escape wasn't as clean as they'd hoped. Mason had likely launched a search from the island, and if they didn't act fast, they would be caught. "I've got an idea," said Marcus, the quiet one of the group who had been studying the boat's equipment. "There's an abandoned dock a few miles from here, on a smaller island. We can hide there for a while. It's off the radar." Ethan nodded, pressing the throttle forward. "Let's get to that island, now." Minutes felt like hours as the boat rocketed across the waves. The island seemed so close now, but Mason wasn't far behind. Ethan could feel the weight of the chase, knowing that one mistake could cost them everything. As they approached the smaller island, the boat crested a large wave, and for a split second, the world seemed to freeze. Then, a loud bang echoed from the rear of the boat, followed by a sickening shudder. "We've been hit," shouted Marcus, pointing to the stern. A trail of water was pouring into the boat. Panic erupted among the group. They were running out of time. "Get to the shore, now!" Ethan yelled. They paddled with whatever they had left, scrambling towards the island's small inlet. The boat was losing power fast, and Mason was close. As the boat scraped the rocky shore, they jumped into the shallow water and sprinted to the safety of the trees. Out of breath and drenched in sweat, the group collapsed behind a thick cluster of palms. The forest was silent except for the sounds of their heavy breathing and the crashing waves. But even as they caught their breath, the question loomed. Would Mason stop at nothing to find them? And how long would they be able to stay hidden on this deserted island? The escape was far from over, and the real fight for survival had only just begun. The dense forest of the small island was alive with the sounds of unseen creatures, but to Ethan and the group, it felt like an eerie silence. The boat, their only means of escape, was now a sinking relic abandoned on the shore. They had made it here, but they were stranded once again, and Mason wasn't far behind. Ethan stood at the edge of the trees, staring out at the open sea. The waves lapped at the shore as if mocking their helplessness. Their only hope was to find shelter and wait until the danger passed. But in the back of his mind, a thought nagged at him. This island felt too familiar, like something they'd encountered before. Could it be, he whispered under his breath. Lily, who had been catching her breath, turned to him. "What's wrong, Ethan?" "I think we've been here before." "This island, it's the same one," he said, his eyes narrowing as the memories clicked into place. The island they had escaped to wasn't just any island. It was the very one from the maps Mason had shown them, the island that had been abandoned for years, the one where Robinson Crusoe himself had once been stranded. The stories of survival, of building a life from nothing, flooded Ethan's mind. Was it fate that had brought them here again? Or was there something more sinister at play? "Are you saying this island, it's Crusoe's island?" Lily asked, skepticism in her voice. Ethan nodded. "Yes. And if we're right, this place holds secrets that Mason might already know about. But there's something else. We might be able to use it to our advantage." With no time to waste, the group set out deeper into the island, navigating through thick underbrush and past ancient trees. As they trekked, the landscape grew increasingly familiar. This was the island Crusoe had once called home. The remnants of long-forgotten structures dotted the landscape, a crumbling stone wall here, an old, weathered well there. Evidence of a life lived in isolation, away from civilization. "There's a cave system nearby," Marcus said, breaking the silence. "If we can find it, it'll be the perfect hiding spot. No one would think to look for us there." Ethan led the way, his mind racing. The survivalist instincts that had been honed during their escape were now being put to the test once again. If Mason found them, their fight for survival would be even harder. After hours of searching, they finally stumbled upon the entrance to the cave, a hidden opening beneath a thicket of vines and moss. It was a perfect spot, out of sight and deep enough to keep them safe for now. As the group settled inside the cool darkness, the weight of their situation began to sink in. They were stranded on an island that seemed to have a mind of its own, a place where survival wasn't just about avoiding danger, it was about outsmarting it. Ethan couldn't help but wonder how long they could survive in this new, familiar world. Would they find a way off the island, or would they end up as another chapter in the island's long history of isolation? As the days turned into weeks, the group adapted to life on the island, each member learning to rely on the skills they had developed over the years: survival, resourcefulness, and a deep understanding of the land they now called home. The remnants of Robinson Crusoe's life seemed to offer both a warning and a guide, a testament to the strength of human resilience in the face of isolation. Ethan often found himself staring out at the ocean, his thoughts drifting back to the world they had left behind. Would they ever return to civilization? Or would they remain trapped in this strange echo of Crusoe's world, forever lost to time? One fateful night, after the stars had fully claimed the sky and the jungle had grown silent, a faint sound carried across the water, a distant engine. Hope surged through Ethan's chest, but just as quickly, doubt followed. Was it a ship, a rescue? Or was it Mason, never giving up the chase? They had survived for this long, but the hardest part of their journey was yet to come. Whatever lay ahead, they knew this island had changed them forever. No longer just fugitives running from the past, they were survivors, each day bringing them one step closer to reclaiming their freedom. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe for more captivating audio stories.